So we have one more of those in store for you this afternoon. Let's welcome Validide to the stage.
I trust the change when I'm in doubt. I trust the change. Are you in or you out?
A peer-to-peer version of electronic cash. There's a lot more to that song. I wrote that song in 2018 in honor of the first crypto boom. So I'm here to help you self-sovereign your identity. So imagine your daughter's at college and she goes down to the bar and the bartender wants to card her. Guess what? She's giving him more information than he needs to prove she's 21. Her name and her address, most importantly. And you probably don't want him to know that information. So through self-sovereign identity, you can actually share the fact that you're 21 without sharing your name, address, or even your actual birth date. And that's what we'll talk about. So what is self-sovereign identity? It's a worldwide movement of people, companies, and governments who believe that individuals should own and control their own personal information. There's about 1 billion people in this world who have no valid ID at all. So we certainly want to help them. But the 3.2 billion people who have a valid ID and who are also online quite often creating a vapor trail of their personal information that's available for hackers, and then also those centralizers. Even in South Carolina, we have some issues there. A recent survey by Liminal shows that 75% of all people would like to control their own personal information. But your identity consists of way more than just your ID. These are all attributes of which we can verify your identity. The problem is there's no open standards. There's no standards at all. These companies all are third-party companies who verify your identity for employers or government or whatever, and they get to do what they want to do, really. So what we're doing is building a decentralized identity ecosystem of trust. And we're bringing together the three entities that interact during a transaction. So the first is the holder, which is you, the individual. It's your information. You should hold it. We verify who you are, so we don't create a fake person. And then you tell us what credentials you want us to verify, like your education, your work history, your right to drive. And then we reach out to the issuer, and that's the university, the hospital, or the government. They tell us, yes, we issue this credential to you. It's fact. Then what we do is turn that into what's called a verifiable credential. This is an open standard structure under W3C. As I showed you, all these entities around the world are adopting these standards. So once we turn that into a verifiable credential, we put that into your wallet, and then you can share it. And in this case, she shares it with the bartender, and then the bartender says, okay, you're over 21, now I authorize you to buy this or order this drink. So it's authorization from the verifier. So we have a flywheel of revenue that include all three of those entities, the receiver, the issuer, and the holder, the individual, both transactional and monthly or annual subscriptions. The most important part of what we do is true decentralization. Yes, we do use blockchain, but that's not how we're decentralizing your information. What we're doing is putting it in your wallet that you're holding on your mobile device, and then we delete it off of our servers. So we're not creating a central database that hackers will want to go after, which we call a honeypot. And we call that burn to PII. So we are working within the $9 billion identity verification sector of the $25 billion identity management industry. And yes, we do have competitors, but we love competitors because we only need to serve the 7.8 billion people on Earth, and we need more help to do that. But we can talk about the competitive advantages that we have. My name is Gordon Jones. I teach blockchain at the University of South Carolina. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Erica Barnett was my student last fall, a year ago. We came up with an idea for Validity. Then we recruited Seth, who is also a USC alumni, and Nicole, who, like me, is a serial entrepreneur, and she is our COO. We've been through the Startup Wind Accelerator. We are now a South Carolina Research Authority launch company, and most recently, Blackbot adopted us into their social good startup program. We've already raised $478,000 in pre-seed funding. We're looking for another $500,000 to kind of round out $1 million. If you think about Coinbase, they started 10 years ago. They came out of Y Combinator. They wanted to educate people on cryptocurrency, and then they created a wallet to do that. We're doing the same thing. We're teaching people about identity, how to protect it, and then we want to onboard them into customer experience that they've never had before, and to be able to manage their personal information. And we have the revenues revenue models to sustain that. So we want you to join us in the movement to self-sovereign your identity. Just join us at validity.com.
All right,
I got that in under 5 minutes. That was amazing.
over to our judges. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start. Great presentation. Where are you at with the product? Can you talk about overall product development and
Yes.
people using this and things like that?
Yep, we're having our soft launch December the 1st with 5 corporate partners. One's in Blackbaud, which is the world's largest SaaS company for nonprofit applications. And so we've got 5 different scenarios that we're going to take through the life of Erica to demonstrate all of those, including passwordless access, doing the verifiable credentials. Our production level will be ready in the mid-January.
So I have a question for you, and I asked this when we did your initial interview, but two-sided marketplace, right? People that need to verify identities and the customers. What side is going to drive adoption, do you think, in your strategy?
Yeah, so most of the companies that I had listed in the problem page are third-party background check companies that serve employers. So our early revenue is going to come from contracting with employers. Basically, all we have to do is supplant those companies. Not any of those companies have more than 5% of the market. Then we would just conduct a background check. So you're applying for a job. The employer would pay us, but we work for you. So we reach out to you. You give us consent. We verify your identity. We create the wallet. And then you tell us what credentials you need verified. We give them back to you. We delete them off our servers. And then it's true peer-to-peer. You then send them to the employer, even though they paid for it.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so the business pays for it, but the consumer never, ever loses control.
Correct. Yeah. And then, of course, we do have the model. So if you watched the documentary Social Dilemma, you know that if you're not paying for it, you're the product, right? So we want you to pay for it so we don't have to figure out how to make money somewhere else.
Nice presentation, and the head nod for being South Carolina companies.
Amen.
Go get them. So I struggle a little bit with this concept of you've got the persona, you've got the issuer. There's a flywheel effect that has to kind of get a little bit viral. Coinbase had Bitcoin that was going crazy, and so what's the equivalent here? The use case you offer is the ID at the bar, and I'm not sure that's going to drive this, but that may not be the best use case. What can you give other examples of use cases that you think will drive?
So we're not a horizontal play spamming the world.
Yeah.
We're local to grow global. So we're saturating Columbia, South Carolina. We're educating the governor all the way down to the individual citizen to understand, hey, at least they heard about Validity. So when a student walks into the bar and uses Validity to prove they're over 21, the restaurant will have at least heard what it is.
What are some other use cases like that are very local and specific?
Yeah, so one of the other scenarios we're doing is youth sports. So we have the Daniel Island Soccer League that knows that all of the kids' birth certificates that are sitting on their coaches' computers are creating liability for them.
Yep.
And so that's one of our demonstrations. We also voting. So because we have your driver's license information, we can actually check voting registration records to see if you're eligible if you've already registered to vote. If not, then we can actually submit that for you. Basically, identity is everything you do. So we ultimately see people using this every day in everyday life so that they can protect their personal information while they're interacting with other people, both physically in the physical world and online.
So the problem with doing these types of things is that you get advice that you didn't pay for. Those other two use cases, I think, are much more gripping than the.
Yeah, the employer thing is going to be quick revenue because there's already money budgeted there, so that's our primary.
Yeah.
We're in the Velocity Network Foundation, which is a consortium of the world's largest employers who are already adopting this format for background checks.
Yeah.
So that's going to be our primary to start off with.
It's a big idea.
Thank
well
you.
done.
You said they're already adopting this format. What's this format that you're referring to there?
The self-sovereign identity or what we call decentralized identity. So that's governance and schema that's being approved under what's called the Worldwide Web Consortium, W3C, and then the governments then adopt that. So like the EU is already starting down the pathway of adopting it for all government
Got it?
documents at the EU level. And we know we can differentiate ourselves from them, but the future is an employee showing up with their background already done with these verifiable credentials so that the employer will ultimately reduce their liability by putting this on the individual and having them do their own background check and put into these immutable records. So they can't change the record. So the employer can then trust that information.
I think you said basically there's some vulnerability with one of the local companies in that market. But that's your first step that you have to kind of get going before you're able to see the rest of the vision through.
So we're one of the other demonstrations we're doing was with the University of South Carolina, the College of Information and Communications, where we're going to be converting all of the graduates in December. Their college degree is going to be converted into verifiable credential. So that's going to be starting to prove the model of where, okay, now we can go after universities. And now they don't have to pay the student clearinghouse, central clearinghouse that processes all these checks now. They can give their students their own decentralized identity with their own college degree in there, and that kicks off their career to where they can use that as an employee.
Got it.
And so there's a revenue model there as an issuer.
Got it. Very good. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's all. Congrats
All right.
on all the progress.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.